Hello, and welcome to the 9th episode of Kino's Jump Journeys. Or, I suppose this week it would be more appropriate to call it Kino's Drunk Journeys. Because this episode, I am what some might say, a fair bit drunk. So, I'm sure you're wondering how this is going to work. Well, this time, both because I am lazy and because I am drunk, I am not going to do this one in order. It's going to be unordered. It's going to be random. Not random. I'm going to just go from the back of the catalog to the top of the catalog. And I'm just going to talk about it and give my rating on the spot. I am doing this because I am lazy, because I am depressed, because I am drunk, and it'll be great. You're all gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. My thoughts will be unfiltered. They will be unregarded. That doesn't make any sense, but it will be that, I bet. If that were a thing it could be, that's what it would be. And so, for that reason, we are going to start this week talking about none other than what would it be? Wow, we're talking about PPPPPPPPPPPPPPPPP. Let's get right on into it. Like I said, first up is PPPPPP, and this moment is where the timestamp is going to be, not the one that I said previously, because that time was just me telling you what is going to be first, just based off looking at the thing. So, what did I think about this chapter of PPPPPPPP? Well, I thought it was pretty cool. This chapter of PPPPPP, only 6 P's, I know. Well, this chapter was mostly just Lucky trying to think about what he wanted to have going on, what he wanted to do, and how he was going to approach playing the piece for Fanta. And I should mention right now, because I just thought about it, I forgot to mention what score I would give this chapter of PPPPPP, and that's a tough question. You know, being as that I just read the chapter just now, I haven't really had much time to think about what I think about it. And, well, if I had to put a number on it, this chapter, it wasn't too crazy. It wasn't too... I won't say it wasn't too interesting, but the way it was formatted might leave a bit to be desired. And in that case, I think it'd be fair to give PPPPPP, like, a 7, you know? A 7 would be pretty good. It was a pretty good chapter. It talked about a lot of stuff I enjoy, which I'll get into. But it also wasn't crazy. It wasn't super interesting. It was definitely what one might consider a build-up chapter. And so, this chapter of PPPPPP, it was good. It wasn't great, but it definitely did what I suppose it needed to do. We had a lot of talk about how the dead or the true or the hidden, whatever, Lucky doesn't really care about all this emotion garbage. He just cares about doing music, which I guess is a hidden part of Lucky. Like, deep in his heart, he cares about just playing good music, maybe. Even though our Lucky, you know, the true Lucky, he wants to look after his siblings before anything else. So it's interesting to see how he's kind of fighting with himself on that topic. And we also have a moment with Sonata. It's Sonata, right? Yeah, Sonata. No, not Sonata. That's Lucky's last name. You know, the guy who did the copying of the fucking... Who did the copying of the amusement park from Fanta. What's that guy's name? Whatever. I don't care. He was talking about their plans on what they're gonna do. And Lucky was talking about what he's gonna do and how he's feeling. And we end the chapter with him about to play. And Fanta's looking pretty smug. I don't know why. Maybe it's because he knows that he's the bee's knees. But he's feeling pretty good. I would wonder what reason there would be to have Fanta play second as opposed to Fanta playing first. And there could be a lot of reasons for that. But really, I think the reason might just be... Actually, I don't know. I'm really interested in why that might be, because you'd think that you'd want your protagonist to be the last one playing, only to have the dramatic conclusion happen afterwards. But who knows? Regardless, we're going to see what happens next week. And wow, when I'm drunk and unscripted, spoiler alert, most of Kino's jump journeys is scripted. But this time it's unscripted because I'm drunk. And for that reason, this segment is really long, and I'm not gonna worry too much about that. We're gonna stop it there because I don't have much more to say. And we're gonna move on over to everyone's favorite manga, Me and Roboco. So, this chapter of Me and Roboco, if I had to put a number to it, I would say it was probably a lower 6 out of 10. That would be my number for it. Because this chapter was, a simple gag chapter. And of course, or not of course, it was a chapter that didn't actually pull from any of the regular gags of the series. Unless you count a small bit of reference humor. But I'm not going to hold that against Roboco. This chapter had Bondo getting a stylish haircut from Roboco and also some other guy. And in the start of the chapter, we see Roboco having a haircut much like that one pop character from the One Piece movie, I assume. I think I've seen that around. And I think that's the reference going on. And we use that going forward to have a little bit of fun about Roboco, of course, not knowing anything about hairstyling, but styling Bondo's hair anyway, because she's full of herself. You know how it goes. And then some other guy shows up, who I guess is a fashion star. It's possible he's actually a famous fashion dude, and I just don't know. And I also don't care. And he gives Bondo a cool haircut, which I'm sure will be gone next chapter, and then he leaves. And that's really all there is to it. It wasn't really all that funny. And as I find myself often saying, not funny, but also not offensive, it was kind of just a nothing chapter. Did I say a lower 6? Maybe an upper 5. Maybe an upper 5 would be a better score. Because I wouldn't say I enjoyed it. I didn't have a fun time reading it. But I didn't read it and I wasn't like, oh man, what a bad chapter. So that's what score I'm giving it. And that's where we'll end this segment. Because that's all I have to say about it. And following Me and Roboco, we have one of my favorite series in the magazine. One that makes me happy reading every single gosh darn page. Even if this time, or the second time, because I didn't mention this before. And I'm not sure if I've ever mentioned it on the podcast, but this time I've read every single chapter twice in a row. I always do this. I read the chapter once for fun and enjoyment and for the enriching experience. And then for the second time, I read it just to gather my complete thoughts on it, which I would then usually write down and then record for the podcast. But this time, like I said, I am drunk. So, I'm just talking about it, And this chapter of High School Family, which I am giving the score of an upper 7 out of 10. I'll give High School Family this week an upper 7 out of 10. And it's really simple. We just decided that the whole school, not the whole school, I assume it's not the whole school, like this year, I don't know what year it is, but these students, probably second years, they're going on a trip to Okinawa, orchestrated by the president, my boy Kotaro, and the vice president, the girl who has a crush on him. And they decided to go to Okinawa for the class trip, which is happening now. And assuredly, lots of fun adventures and gags and silliness is going to ensue. And we had a few silliness happen this chapter. Nothing too crazy, nothing too wild. I'm yawning, and I'm not going to edit that out of the podcast because it's been a long time since I've edited anything out of the podcast. But it was good stuff, and I enjoyed it. Again, very simple stuff, nothing too revelatory or interesting or complex happening, but I just love seeing these characters be themselves. And we end on the line, the class trip arc is underway, so it sounds like we're going to be here for a while, and we're going to have lots of fun. Yawning again, which I'm also not going to edit out. Good stuff. That's all I have to say, because I can't think too much. So we're going to move on to the next thing, which will be Blue Box. Get excited! So, now we have Blue Box, the series that I always love to read every single week, much like, now that I think about it, probably more than half the magazine I look forward to reading every week. But this week, I would give this chapter an lower 8 out of 10. And why would I give it that score? Well, it's because while the last chapter, I believe I gave an upper 7 out of 10, I think this chapter of Blue Box just overall did a tad bit more for me, and that bumps it up a little bit. So we have the aftermath of Taiki and Chinatsu taking that old lady home. And they mistake those two for being a couple, and it's really cute how Taiki is just like, oh no, we're not. And Chinatsu definitely takes notice of his apprehension and his anxiety. We don't know how exactly she took it, but she definitely recognized it and acknowledged it. So that's going to mean something for the future, and it's really good stuff. I love all this emotional drama. It really feeds my deep-seated insecurities about my own life. And, all I have to say is that it was good stuff, and they go back to the resort, to the hotel. It's not a hotel. I don't know what it is. It's like an inn, I guess. And then we kind of cut to them doing more practice the next day, I suppose. And that's all good. We have the harlot, the girl whose name I still don't know, who I'm sure I'll learn eventually. She is using her powers as a harlot to support the team and give people encouragement and notice their improvements, which is really interesting because when she first got here, she didn't give two licks about the team or their current state of affairs. She just joined to meet Yusa, who isn't even on our team. And I love seeing her progress. And then we end the chapter with Hina still adamant about not wanting to do anything until Taiki is the one to act upon any kind of feelings he may have, you know? She wants him to make his own decision. She doesn't want to force or manipulate or pressure him into some kind of decision. She wants him to be the one to make the choice, and she is enjoying just being around him, and it's cool, good stuff. And besides that, I have no comments. So again, we're just gonna move on to whatever it is we have to talk about next, which, what would that be? Next up, we have the last chapter of Aliens Area. And let me tell you, I'm real sad about this one. We're ending this week, and it's gonna make me cry. Or not cry, I mean, I kind of saw the painting on the wall long before this chapter came out, and I knew that we were ending. But it's still sad. And so, what do you think I have to say about this chapter? Okay, so, Aliens Area. Like I said, the last chapter, I'd give that chapter, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't a huge fan of the chapter, for a variety of reasons, which I will get into. But just to give my number grade, let's say that chapter was like an upper 6 out of 10. It was pretty unimpressive, nothing too crazy going on. It really did just feel like they were rushing things on to get to a technical ending, even though the last chapter said that the story is going to be officially finished in the graphic novel, which to me is lame and stupid, you know? I mean, all that tells me is that your series wasn't good enough to be popular, and you were also not good enough to finish some kind of story, or even a story arc in general in the time allotted, you know? If you knew your series was going to end, at the very least, you could have cut things off and rushed to a kind of conclusion that at least kind of felt like a conclusion to a story. I know it's difficult, and I empathize, and I'm sad, especially because I liked Aliens Area. But, I don't know, when the series ends and it's like, well, do the real ending in the graphic novel, I'm like, whatever, I don't care. But this chapter in general didn't do anything to offend me, you know? The paneling was great. I liked our characters being themselves. It was good. I like the characters we have. But it's just another tragedy of Shonen Jump, you know? A lost, dead body among greatness. And I'm sorry and I'm sad, but them is the breaks. And for that reason, I'm not going to linger. I'm just going to move on to the next segment. And the next chapter up for us is Mission Yozakura Family. And this chapter was very good. Last chapter we had Shinzo going in. No, we had Kango. Kango is the fucking shapeshifter dude. He went inside of Shinzo's mind to help him restore his memories and all that. And this chapter, we kind of go into how Kango is going about that, examining how Shinzo's memories, as I correctly predicted, have actually been wiped. Which I will again say I predicted. And now he is flooding Shinzo's mind with the memories that he has lost, as well as the memories in general that lets him know what's going on, you know? I don't know. It's cool stuff, and Kango in general talks about how Shinzo is when he awakened his blooming, It was because he came to help Shinzo, who was on a solo mission. And in trying to save his brother, he awakened his awakening, or his little blooming, which I'm sure we already know, but for some reason I don't know right now. But point being is, Shinzo was Kango. Kango was the perfect person to bring out for Shinzo because of that connection they share. And we end the chapter with Shinzo. No, what the fuck? We end the chapter with Kango flooding Shinzo's brain with his memories. And next week, we're going to learn about what happens. Now, most likely scenario, I assume that it'll work out fine, and we will have saved Shinzo, and it'll be cool. But I also think it'd be cool. I think it'd be cool if, for whatever reason, this does not work, and we need to figure out a more nuanced way to save Shinzo. But I don't know. And you know when we will know? We'll know next week when I come back again, not drunk, to talk about the chapter that comes out. So we're going to look forward to that. And we're going to talk about that next week. But next up, we're going to talk about Witch Watch, which will be something exciting. And now we have Witch Watch, which I will give a 7 out of 10. I will not lie to you, the second time through, I definitely skimmed this chapter, because as of this moment, we're about to hit 22 minutes, and I will be honest with you, we're not going fast enough. I mean, by this time, I'd be almost done the podcast, but I'm only a few series in, and I really want to keep this moving. And also, Witch Watch is something I don't really care too much about. Even though this chapter we actually began possibly maybe getting back into the story. All that happened was we met some other guy at a ramen shop, as we often do. And he's eating his ramen. And then these thug guys pick a fight with him because he didn't care about the ruckus they were causing. Something that I'm sure was very offensive, I guess. And then he beats them all up, and it's cool. And we also see this other girl who has braces, and she's a witch, and she's maybe his master. He might be her familiar, I guess, although it seems like their arrangement happened very recently, maybe. I don't know. And I guess he is maybe the next villain, because he reached out to our boy, whose name I'm too drunk to remember, and he wants to meet up, I guess, and that'll be cool. And let's say that's all I have to say, because that's all I can think about right now, and we're just gonna move on to the next thing. Also, I just remembered his name was Moy. Moy's our main character. Moy and the witch girl, whose name I still can't remember. But it doesn't matter, because we're moving on to talk about Sakamoto Days. So this chapter of Sakamoto Days had the final moments of not the final moments, just some moments of this chapter where Sakamoto was beating the crap out of Film Guy, and Film Guy is still fighting back. Things aren't too serious. He's definitely not beating him yet, but their fight definitely seems to be going something. They're fighting each other. They're having the time of their lives. We then skip over to having other people, that one other guy who is, what happens is the janitor, who also is the database, he picks up our guys, especially his grandson. And his grandson's like, Granddad, you gotta get going. You gotta get out of here because they're looking for you. And Granddad's like, I'm a pretty strong dude. Don't even worry about it. And Grandson's like, well, that's interesting, I guess. And then we have the other guy. I think the guy that was making all the weapons, maybe? I can't remember. But he's talking to Jam. Jam something. Something Jam. You know, the weird JoJo guy. That guy. He's talking to him and he's like, well, let's make a deal. Deal or no deal, like that one game show. And that's the end of the chapter. So it seems like this guy might be filling out the crew. That was a long yawn that I'm still not going to edit out. But it seems like he's selling us out because of his younger brother, which I guess has been involved and we just didn't know about. And he's going to do something about his younger brother, who he wants information on. And it's possible that this weird fellow, the Jam guy, whose name is just not entering my mind, and I'm not gonna look it up because I don't care enough. But he's like, ooh, so let's find out what happens, I guess. Yay! And next up we have Tokyo Demon Bride story. I'm not even gonna talk about this for any longer than I have to because I don't want to. They find the cat girl, they fight the cat girl, and then for reasons, our main boy, he's like, hey cat girl, why don't you come live with us, I guess, because we need to expand the harem. And that's the end of the chapter, you know? We have a few funny moments where, like, the cats are talking to the cat girl and they're like, fucking deal with it yourself. Because the cats are like, we don't give a shit about whatever it is you're trying to do. And I guess that's kind of funny, but that's all there is to say. And so we're gonna move on to whatever it is I'm talking about next. Ginka and Gluna, chapter whatever. I'm gonna give it a... What score would I give Ginka and Gluna? It was an upper 6 out of 10. And also, I would give Sakamoto Days, which I didn't mention before, I would give that chapter a lower 8 out of 10. And Ginka and Gluna gets a lower 7 out of 10, I've decided. Because this chapter, they're traveling up the mountain. They're doing stuff with the mini Ginka, the Minigin, I think his name is. And then the Minigin gets stolen by a magic bird guy. And he's like, they're stupid and idiots, and I stole their rock. And then Luna shows up, and she's like, fuck you. And she wants to get Minigin back. And that's really the whole chapter. Of course, I mean, maybe there's other stuff I could get into, but now is the time, right in this moment. I'm just gonna say it. Genka and Gluna, it's gonna be canceled. You know, I could pretty much guarantee it. It's not gonna happen soon, or by soon I mean like within the next month or so. I would say Genka and Gluna gets canceled in the next 2 months because this stuff, I'm sorry, it's just not hitting. This stuff isn't feeling good. Maybe it can be turned around, but like, it's just not doing what it needs to do to be popular and to stay in the magazine. It's gonna go the way of all the other stuff, and it's gonna leave the magazine. I'm very sorry. I wish it weren't the case, but that's just how it is. And really, that's all I have to say about it. I'm sorry, Ginka and Luna. You're just not really all that interesting. The bird guy was kind of cool, I guess. And maybe he'll add some interesting drama to it all, and maybe your fight will be cool. but you're just not doing what you're supposed to do, and I'm very sorry about that, and that's where I'm ending this segment. And therefore, up next, we're gonna talk about Akane Banashi, a series I thoroughly enjoy. And oh boy, wasn't this chapter just such a delight. Akane Banashi is always good, and for that reason, I give this chapter an 8 out of 10. Yes, I've decided an 8 out of 10. This chapter, Akane claps back at the mean guy by doing her whole Rakugo thing, but at the end, she changes it to be specifically about him being a mean dude. And it's good stuff, you know? I really have to admire the translator of this chapter, because this Rakugo performance depends heavily upon wordplay. And wordplay is famously difficult to get through when you are translating. And even then, the translator managed to keep the wordplay basically perfectly intact, even when translating from Japanese to English, which is not a task that we should take so lightly. That's a very difficult thing to do. Good stuff. And basically, she made him seem like a silly Billy, although the audience doesn't know too much about what was happening behind the scenes. So the only one knowing that he got owned was himself. Is that going to come through in his performance? Is he going to, take that lightly? Is he going to fight back? Who knows? But all I know is that Akane did the thing very well, and I look forward to seeing what's gonna happen next chapter, and that's all I have to say. So let's move on to Mashal. Mashal is pretty cool. That one guy that one weird guy who I still don't know the name of, with the, I assume, black hair. Not black hair, blonde hair. He seems like a kind of guy who has blonde hair. And he was able to turn the key a little bit for Mashal. Not Mashal, for Mash. And that was cool stuff. Good for him. And then we go back to Mr. Harry Potter and Mash's other older brother, the guy who is really strong. And that guy is beating the crap out of Harry Potter, I mean, of course Harry Potter is putting up a good fight. He's doing the best he can. But he still isn't measuring up. He's trying his best, but this guy is just like, I'm just better than you. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna kill you probably. You're just not that good. And it's probably true. There's not much to say about it. He's just better. And now that I think about it, that's all I have to say this chapter. And I know it's a bit late, like it almost always is, but for that reason, I will give this chapter a lower 7 out of 10. It just isn't doing too much for me, Mashal, recently. I mean, Mashal has been fun, don't get me wrong, but it really does feel like we're dragging our feet, and I do want stuff to just start happening. I don't know what that stuff would be, but I do want it to happen. And that's all I have to say. And also, I'm just going to say now, even though in the Shonen Jump app, which is how I'm determining the order I'm reading this week, I don't know why, but the Elusive Samurai is like the first chapter up, which means that if I were doing this the normal way, not the normal way, but like the usual way, it would be the last chapter I read. But I don't want to end talking about the elusive samurai, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a huge fan of the elusive samurai. So I'm gonna talk about the elusive samurai next, and then it'll be followed by Undead Unluck, and then My Hero Academia, and then One Piece, and then Hunter Hunter, which we will get into when we get into it. But for that reason, up next we have the elusive samurai. What can I say about Undead Unluck? Every chapter for the past, every chapter at the very least, for as long as this podcast has been going, I believe Undead Unluck has been in my top 3 every single time. Maybe that's incorrect. I'm not going to go back and check this moment. But it feels correct to me. In fact, I would argue probably most of the time it's my number 1 pick, because Undead Unluck has just been that good for all this time. And this chapter is no exception. I don't know. I think the score I'm going to give it is just a 9. Probably a 9 out of 10. Which already catapults it to being probably the top pick for this week. And deservedly so. I mean, we finally finished the loop. We lasted long enough to be able to get Fuko to go on to the next loop, and she's talking to Luna, and she's like, listen, bitch, you're gonna fucking lose. I mean, really, what she's saying is that the humans and the negators are really cool, and in the next loop, they're gonna win this whole thing because they're really cool. And Luna's like, sick, do it then, loser. And I honestly believe that Fuko's gonna do it. And the first step to that is, at the end of this chapter, she finds that manga author Invisible Girl as a child in the next loop in like 1972 it was, I think. I'm not gonna look back to remember what it was, but I think it was 1972. And she finds the author girl, who finds a G-pen just laying around. Oh, and a G-pen is just like one of the most common tools that a mangaka uses to draw their manga. And Fuko finds the author girl, who is invisible, like I mentioned before. And she's like, I love your manga, it's super cool, and I am your friend, I guess. And that's all there is to it, I guess, you know? We are seeing that she is beginning to build the bonds and make the connections and find all the people that are negators, you know? Because I think in every timeline, all the people that become negators are the same, or something like that. And for that reason, she's beginning to build her army, find her old friends again, and get ready to kill God. And it's really good, and I love seeing Fuko just being the main cheese, the big leader, you know? Now, as before Juiz was the leader, now Fuko's the leader. Fuko has basically completed her character arc, or at least completed this character arc, and now she is the orchestrator. She is the one who is controlling everything, and I really look forward to seeing where that goes. And I believe that's all I have to say about this chapter of Undead Unluck. And for that reason, I will move on to talk about My Hero Academia. And this chapter is largely about the heteromorphs, or all the animal people, all the half animal, half people quirk users, and their fight against society for their rights, because that's kind of been an overarching narrative. And if I were to give this chapter a score out of 10, it'd probably be an 8. An 8 out of 10. I would say 8, or I would say upper 8 out of 10, but I don't know if it was all that, if it was that good. But 8 out of 10 seems good enough, This chapter is really focusing on Spinner being a drugged out guy, and all the animorphs in town being all like, fuck you. I want to fight all of you. I want to be the guy. And then we have both our animal boy, the guy who can talk to animals, and also our multi-arm guy, who both, I guess, count as animorphs. And they're like, stop being stupid, be good. Although it was definitely done in a better way than I can put into words. And it was good stuff. Of course, I am kind of upset that we are only getting into this animorph stuff by the very end of the series. But even then, it's pretty good. It's pretty cool. It's pretty great. I would like to see where this goes before I really decide how I feel about the approach of this arc. But at the very least, it's pretty cool that we're really getting into the Animorph side. Especially because Spinner is one of my favorite characters now that Twice is gone. But that's all I have to say about that chapter of that. And I know what you're thinking. Or at the very least, I know what you would be thinking if you were listening to, at the very least, the Mashal segment, if not the entire podcast. You're thinking, didn't you say that you would talk about the elusive samurai? And you would be correct, except for the fact that I forgot that I was going to do that because of my drunken status. So now we'll talk about how the elusive samurai scores probably a upper 6, maybe a lower 7 to 7 out of 10. I'm not going to give it an exact score. No, yes I am. I'm going to give it a score of an upper 6 out of 10, which kind of falls in line with most of it because, all of our heroes have kind of won the day. We killed all of the bad guys. Or at least most of... we killed all of the big bad guys. And now all of Japan knows about our crew doing their thing. Because I guess messengers managed to learn about all the killings and also get back to the main heads in time to tell them what's going on. And now I guess everyone, and everyone important, knows that Tokiyuki is the leader, and he is the head of the Shijo. I think it's Shijo. I'm not going to look into it because I don't care enough. Family. And isn't that crazy? Things really do seem like they're drawing to a head. Isn't it interesting to think about how, at least as things are going, a lot of the series in the magazine seem to be rushing towards a conclusion? I mean, we have My Hero Academia, we have The Elusive Samurai, we have Undead Unluck, we have Black Clover, and you could also argue Jujutsu Kaisen, although Jujutsu Kaisen has lots of room to kind of expand. But lots of stuff is ending. What's going to happen? Also, One Piece is also ending soon in the next few years. What the fuck is going to be going on in the magazine? I don't know. But all I can say is that the elusive samurai is boring, and the head of the bad guys is like, oh, I know that kid. We better take measures to stop him. And that's why I gave... that's why I gave the elusive samurai a upper 6 out of 10. Because it was kind of boring. And that is what I want you to take away from this entire segment. And now we can talk about One Piece. Because One Piece is up next. And One Piece is pretty cool, I think. In One Piece, we kind of open with Blackbeard doing his thing. He's fighting Trafalgar D. Law still. And, wouldn't you know it, Trafalgar D. Law seems to be doing pretty well. He's really good at the whole war at water, the water war, sea wars, sea combat. He's really good at all of that stuff. And Blackbeard seems to be having trouble, which I didn't really anticipate last week, but it seems like no one really anticipated last week, because I've been listening to everyone talk about their feelings on this chapter. Not everyone, just the people I listen to, like Mr. Morge, Grand Line Review, and that's all of them. And they're like, wow, Law seems to be doing better than we could have anticipated. And I have to agree. And, I have to think, what's going on here? Because everyone's like, wow, that fight's still going on. And I still think Blackbeard's gonna win, but Trafalgar D. Law is putting up a much better fight than I thought he could. And that's pretty crazy. We go back to the island, and we see our team, Luffy, Chopper, Bonnie, and Fishman, the fish guy, who I don't know why, but his name is skipping my mind. And I'm certain that some select people might be upset with that, but, I, in this very moment, remembered his name was Jinbei, so no reason to be upset, I guess. And then we get back to the other half of our crew, who are with the other, scientist man. The scientist man whose name I can't remember because of my intoxicated state. And they're looking at Egghead Island, and they're like, wow, isn't Egghead so cool? Vegapunk, who is the guy who I was thinking about, he's great, and I love him. The rest of the crew gets their cool outfits on, and it's pretty cool. And at the end of the chapter, we're talking to, Vegapunk is talking to, what's that? Monkey D. Dragon. And it seems like they're acquainted, and they're friends, maybe. And Vegapunk is like, listen, Dragon, I'm gonna die. And so I want to talk to you, my best friend, Dragon. Isn't that cool? Isn't that great? I do wonder what's gonna happen. And I suppose we'll find out next week. And so, or not next week, the week after that, because One Piece is taking a break exactly at the time when we don't want it to take a break. And that is just so One Piece. And if I haven't given One Piece a score yet, which I'm pretty sure I haven't, we're gonna give it the score of a, let's say, lower 8 out of 10. That's right, we're giving One Piece a lower 8 out of 10 for being pretty fucking good. We enjoyed it, we had a good time, even if it wasn't as good as maybe a few of the other series we were talking about. And so, we will end this episode talking about Hunter x Hunter. What's that, you ask? Hunter x Hunter is back? Yes, after a few years of being gone, many years longer than this podcast had been running, Hunter x Hunter is actually back. I forget if I've mentioned that before. If I've mentioned it last week or the week prior, I forget how long we've known about this, but Hunter x Hunter's back. How long it'll be back, who knows? But it's crazy. And this chapter, we feature none of the main characters, which is perfectly okay, because we didn't really need to. This chapter really is just kind of picking up off of the last time we saw the chapters years ago, and that, not that it matters to any of you, but this episode of Kino's Jump Journeys, episode 9, was interrupted by my grandfather because he asked me to move my car, which I am recording in, into a different place for reasons that aren't important. But that's why I am putting in a sudden pause. Not a pause, but a break in the episode. But let's jump right back into talking about Hunter x Hunter. Because boy howdy was this episode pretty good. This chapter was pretty good. We kind of jump in with all these random characters who are doing stuff. There's this one guy who does all this weird blood stuff, and this one girl who does punchy stuff. Punchy stuff that makes you tell the truth. I don't know. I'm of course I'm still kind of out of the loop on Hunter x Hunter, but it's been a long time since I've read it, but I'm pretty sure we're only just now learning her ability. And she does punchy stuff that makes you tell the truth. And this guy does blood stuff that tracks people down using his blood. And then we meet some guy who has long hair and his ability to turn stuff into animals. The best way to describe this ability would be the JoJo from Part 5, whose name I'm just about to remember. His name is not Jotaro. His name is Giorno Giovanni. You know how Giorno Giovanni could turn regular stuff into animals or organic matter? Well, that's what this guy does. And he can do stuff like he can do stuff like turn cameras into cats and have them do surveillance. And he can turn handcuffs into birds, which he does. And we have, he faces off against all those people who are working with that one girl whose name I can't remember. But that one girl who can give people the power to gain levels by killing people. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But he's fighting off against them, and this guy seems really strong because he's basically able to hold them all off, even though he takes some damage from that one guy who can turn things into weapons. But the main takeaway here is that the succession war is going crazy. We have different factions fighting against each other. And I suppose this chapter was mainly supposed to show us that to show us that the inner factions of the succession war are actively working against each other. And they're looking for that girl who does the the infestation thing. And I guess she's important now, because she's doing stuff and she's important. And I'm really interested in seeing what she does. Of course, what I'm interested in is seeing Hisoka do more stuff and the Phantom Troop do more stuff. And all the characters we know doing more stuff. But all this set dressing is very important for the story going forward. If I weren't drunk, and if this were a normal episode where I weren't depressed and drunk, we'd be talking more in depth, I suppose. Especially considering this is the first week where Hunter x Hunter has been back. Really, I definitely timed this very poorly, because this is the time when I should be taking things seriously. But also, if you think about it, this is the time when being drunk is the most funny, because this is a very important week, and me being drunk during it and not remembering anything is kind of silly, I guess. And not that it matters to any of you, but this chapter discussion is now over, and now we will be moving on into the section where the chapter is moving towards. I yawn a lot this week, and I'm not cutting out any of it, but I will now be ending the episode, which will basically conclude with me saying that, oh man, I really wish you would comment about stuff and subscribe and tell me what you think and like the video, which is all stuff I really wish you would do anyway. But regardless, I'm ending the episode, and after I end the recording, I will be moving my car into the proper parking space while drunk, which, is probably a bad idea, and I most certainly shouldn't do, but who cares? I will see you all next week, and you all know that I'm still alive by then. If I'm not, whatever. But regardless, I hope you have a good night.